Well, for more on these historic elections, I'm joined by Arise Global Affairs Analyst Marco Vicenzino. An historic day, Marco. I mean, what more can you tell us about the voting process? I mean, polls have closed now, voting's underway, but what about the process and the turnout?
Sure. In terms of the word historic is a very accurate term, because you're looking at a country resource-rich, strategic location, particularly among various neighbors, including China and India, a population of over 50 million. Yet, since independence in 1948, it's a country that's not been able to realize its full potential. It's been led mostly by military government since independence in 1948, and it's plagued by many, many civil wars. So for the entire country, this is a big day of hope. Now, the actual process itself, the voting process, everything seemed, according to reports, to have gone smoothly. Isolated incidents of some kind of wrongdoing, but overall, general smoothly, had tight security in the country during this election day, and most businesses were closed. So for the process itself, I think one could say it went very well. It was credible and it was legitimate. Now, the campaign process, if you took like the entire campaign period, mixed. Reports of intimidation, particularly of minorities, Buddhist nationalists, intimidating minorities, particularly Muslims. And you also have the issue of there's parts of the country where conflict exists, where there is no voting taking place. Okay. So you have 40,000 voting booths in the country, but in certain parts of the country where there's war. And then plus you have the ongoing issue of the plight of the Rohingya, Muslim minority, over 1 million, or estimated to be generally 1 million. They are considered stateless. They have temporary IDs, and those with temporary IDs are not able to vote in this election. So yes, the process, the actual voting went well. The process still there's a lot lacking, but I think when you compare it to previous elections, there is a sense of optimism and hope, but that optimism also needs to be kept in check.
And what more can you tell us about Ms. Suu Kyi? I mean, she's had quite a formidable presence in politics in Myanmar for decades now. How much support is there for her as a personality and her party?
That'll be mixed, but I think a lot of votes for her will be people who are dedicated to her and committed to her and her vision and her party. And there's also many people who may vote for her because there's an opposition. It's a way to say no to the military. It's a way of saying she's a figure that can be somewhat of a uniting figure. We may not support her completely, but yet she does represent, she represents a strong figure, and she provides some sort of future. Now, she herself, as we know, she cannot run. Obviously, the current constitution that was designed, designed specifically to preserve many of the powers of the military. And one clause is that the fact that she has children that are foreign, as a result, she's not allowed. But she's made it clear, if her party wins by the necessary majority, she will be the power behind the throne, the power behind the new president. She'll be calling the shots, in other words.
And can we credit the current president for putting the country on the road to democracy, do you think?
I mean, he deserves his fair share of credit. Obviously, he's backed by the military. Remember, the last election in 2010, when they began the process of opening, was basically dismissed as fraudulent by most people as a fixed election. 2011, the military, it phased itself out, and it gave control technically to a civilian government. Was under the control of the new president. Yes, during the 4 years, there's been an enormous amount of political and economic opening if you compare it to the previous 20 years before that. So yes, I mean, but there's still many, many issues. They'll put it this way, today was an important stepping stone. The government deserves its fair share of credit, but the road ahead is a very, very, very long one.
I mean, voting has finished. The count is expected when? Tomorrow? Or when will we see the results?
The results, probably an overall view of the composition of the new parliament in about 48 hours by Tuesday morning. We'll have a better, clear idea where things are heading, the exact composition. Once again, the military, as part of that new constitution, reserved itself to unelected military officials. 25% of the new seats in the parliament go to the military. So there's the other 75%. For her to get, for an NLD party of Aung San Suu Kyi, she needs to have more than 2/3 of the vote. So it's a fairly high bar, but it's, according to most predictions, it's something that she may be able to achieve. But the military still reserves a lot of power. It's going to retain certain key ministries. It has holding companies that practically dominate the economy. And in addition to that, apart from the 25% block, it also has the ability to remove a civilian government under special circumstances.
I mean, there's a huge amount of expectation around this result, isn't there? But with that, the anticipation of change and a lot of uncertainty as well. Do you think this is going to be a stable transition?
I think if it's, like I said, it's a country that since 1948 hasn't realized its potential. This hopefully will begin that process. There is hope. There's a sense of optimism, but also a sense of uncertainty, because in previous elections you've had many coups in the past. Hopefully this time will be different. I think this time probably will be different because the military can no longer afford to keep the country closed. It needs foreign direct investment. It needs to create a future for its people. It's a country of over 50 million people, 30 of which are able to vote in this election, and they want a brighter future, particularly the young people in the country. So I would say overall it's a sense of optimism, but also a sense of apprehension. I was there earlier this year, and I felt that, you're speaking to ordinary people, there's a sense of hope for the future, but also many questions many questions still being asked, and it's a long process ahead, but it's an important stepping stone.
Marco, thank you.
Thank you.